Welcome to the Hollywood Persona Podcast. Here are your hosts, Mitch and Ant.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Persona. I'm Mitch, and that is Ant over there on the other side. If you're watching live or if you're watching on YouTube, you can see us. I can see a nice waving American flag out the window, out of the back of your
Yeah. Yep.
It's
very
just
subtle.
it's not, you know what? There is nothing, it's in a million movies, but there's nothing better than seeing a waving big American flag. It's like, to me, nothing brings up like patriotism than just seeing it slowly waving in the wind, and it's in every like raw American movie.
Yeah. Michael Bay loves them.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, man. I agree. I get similar feelings, and I think it probably has to do with because we were probably ingrained to it as kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, although you being in Canada, no, because I had to sing the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of every school day.
And we had to sing "O Canada" at the beginning of every school
I
day.
do like that song. I like "O Canada."
Yeah.
You know what, though? I did hear "O Canada" a lot because I played hockey, and a lot of places and teams we played in the Northeast were Canadian teams, and I would hear it a lot.
So today we're going to talk about Nosferatu. We haven't recorded in a little while, but so Nosferatu has been put on the back burner, but we're going to talk about that, and which is great because you can go home and rent it on VOD right now if you want. So
yeah,
I'm going to talk about Queer, the Daniel Craig movie from last year, The Devil's Bath, a new horror movie from 2024, Blitz, we're both going to talk about. That is a World War II film starring Saoirse Ronan, A Different Man, The Room Next Door. We're going to save. We're saving that one. We're going to save it and hold space. And then Ant is going to talk about One of Them Days, which is a comedy that he has some high regard for, and Wolfman, which I haven't seen, and I don't know if I will anytime soon. So I think he's just going to talk about it, and we'll see. If he says it's amazing, I will go see it. But we'll. And then next week we will talk about The Last Showgirl, Nickel Boys, Den of Thieves 2, and then The Room Next Door. The Room Next Door you can see at home, and all I'll say is if you like Pedro Almodovar's movies, you could do a lot worse. It's pretty good. I ended up really liking it, and that's all I'll say. But I could see a variety of different opinions on it.
I've heard a variety.
Yes, I'll be really interested to see. I think it'd be a good chat. So the only thing, the one thing I got to bring up, no real news stuff except for David Lynch. Obviously, that's the big news. David Lynch passed away. Ant and I were in the middle of a conversation and I just texted him. I'm like, I didn't even respond to what he said. I just said, David Lynch is dead. He's like, no way.
I remember where I was when you texted me that. I was walking 6 miles to a theater near me.
Wow. There you go. Because we were talking about what you were seeing, and if we could record, and it's great because I've watched a bunch of clips from him. He is a super interesting man. I've only seen about 4 of his films, so I still have to see Elephant Man, which is, an Inland Empire. So I will be catching up probably this year. I think I'm going to try to watch all of his.
Yeah, I would like to try that too, because I was going to ask you what your relationship to him is and what you think of his movies. So, listeners who don't know him that well, he did Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, Eraserhead, the films you just mentioned, Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. He did the first adaptation of Dune, Wild at Heart, and that's about all of the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always the movies where it's like he's like an art house favorite where he doesn't explain anything. They're usually not a strong narrative. You are supposed to figure out what he's going for, and he never will really say exactly what that is. Some people like that. Some people call it pretentious. I am in the middle. I love Mulholland Drive. And funny enough, my uncle, who I kind of semi-credit for getting me into movies, he showed me and my girlfriend Blue Velvet when we were maybe like 17, 16, 17. He's like, you guys want to watch a weird movie? And
Yeah.
I remember thinking, wow, what a weird movie. Dennis Hopper in that movie is wearing a gas
Oxygen.
mask.
Yeah, oxygen or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
he's like huffing it. Maybe it's ether.
Yeah.
He's huffing. Yeah, there's a funny Heineken quote, Pabst Blue Ribbon quote that we still say a lot because of that movie. So yeah,
What is it? I can't remember.
So Dennis Hopper goes to a bar and the bartender says, like, would you like a Heineken? And Dennis Hopper gets more indignant than anyone should be for being asked. And he says, like, Heineken, fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh yeah, I just heard that recently too.
And PBR is, you know who says that? Anderson from the Film Vault.
Yeah, I think he said it on the last episode, which is interesting because he just died.
Yeah.
I think he said it before.
Yeah, I was gonna say he said it before.
And Do It for Van Gogh is based on Blue Velvet, and which is said on.
So he was David Lynch was definitely a heavy smoker for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he died, but
yeah, actually, I don't know. I haven't seen yet. I guess I've only seen Blue Velvet, Eraserhead, and Dune.
Okay.
Which I like all three. I've seen Eraserhead twice. I can tell you right now, I don't want to fucking watch it again, but I enjoyed it better the second time. I actually watched it with a Film Vault family viewing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which was fun. But yeah, so The Elephant Man, I know I'm gonna like. Mulholland Drive, I'm gonna like. And then he's got a really good relationship with Naomi Watts and Laura Dern. Are in a lot of.
I would credit him with helping Naomi Watts become who she is today.
Yeah.
And Laura Dern.
Yeah, and I think I'm even gonna try to get into Twin Peaks, like try to see what that's like, because
that has a rabid fan base.
Yeah, if it's too weird, then I probably won't, because I do like answers sometimes, and that's why I stay away from some of his movies.
Yeah.
I haven't been drawn to them because I enjoy getting answers or trying to understand, and if I really don't understand, it's like I get a little pissed off, inside because I'm like, well, I don't get that. I'm gonna talk about a movie like that later.
That might happen with Twin Peaks. So my experience is I've never seen the show, but I did go see Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me in theaters.
Okay. And
it is very weird and doesn't give you any answers, and it did not make me want to watch the show. I do like it though, but it's a weird movie.
And some people
also the Straight Story. Oh, sorry.
Nope.
I also want to see the Straight Story.
Me too.
I don't really know what it's about. I think it's about a guy driving across country on a lawnmower to find his son.
Yeah, and it's.
But I don't know. I don't think it's called the Straight Story for anything to do with being about homosexual anything.
No, it's called The Straight Story because he's going straight across the map or something.
Okay, yeah.
But it's also like a double entendre because it's David Lynch's only movie that he kind of told straight. Like, it's like a straight, like, there's none of that, what he's known for in it. Like, Richard Farnsworth is in that and Sissy Spacek. So.
Yeah. So,
anyways.
Yeah, that's David Lynch.
I said in the thing I posted on our Instagram, I said film would be completely 100% different today if we never had David Lynch. Like, there is some David Lynch in like almost every movie. Like I personally think, like,
yeah,
and it opened movies up to be a little weirder and a little crazier. So I'm glad we got to talk about it.
He's one, and I would also say he is one of those directors who your favorite director would say is their favorite director. You know what I mean?
And you know how, like, Letterboxd, when they interview people on the red carpet, they say, what are your 4 favorites? Everybody always has a David Lynch movie in their And I feel like if you're an actor or a director or a writer, it's just someone you kind of have to watch or love or at least try to give respect to.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about Nosferatu first. Would you like to set that up for us?
This will be good. So anyone listening to this has likely heard of Nosferatu. It had a pretty big marketing campaign. It's the best. It's Robert Eggers' most selling movie so far by a pretty wide margin, so he's kind of entering the mainstream. This is the director, Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman. So the movie is basically your Dracula.
Well, yeah, Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula.
Like, it is essentially the exact same story as Dracula.
This is the Dracula story.
Yeah.
I was confusing it with Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, this is adapted from a book, but apparently there was some rights issues, so they changed it to Nosferatu, so they didn't have to buy the rights from someone. But the plot description is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. And the movie stars Lily Rose Depp in the lead, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu in an unrecognizable role, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Willem Dafoe, Emma Corrin, Ralph Ineson, and that's about it for recognizable. Is there anyone I'm missing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
And yeah, this movie has Robert Eggers' attention to detail. Everything about the way it looks is very pleasing to the eye and thought out. I did get to see this in IMAX or Dolby, so it was a very, very big screen, and I quite enjoyed this movie. And most people, it seems, this has a pretty high rating across platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And the standout for me really was Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
His voice and how he looks is unrecognizable. If I had not known that was who he was, I would have waited till the credits to see who the hell was playing Nosferatu. It was really impressive.
Never would have guessed.
And then Lily Rose Depp also kind of surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
She's someone who, of course, a lot of us, including myself, think, okay, well, impress me because you're the son of a very famous actor.
Daughter.
Daughter, thank you. You're being, so that makes it easy for you to get into the industry. So you need to have talent to stay around, right? I mean, maybe that's not fair or whatever, but that's the way I thought. And I have seen her before this in Voyagers, which was a really bad movie. She was fine in it. Wolf, which was a kind of dumb movie. She was fine in it. The King in 2019, which was a fine movie with Timothée Chalamet. Mm-hmm. She was fine in it. And then I saw a few episodes of that really sexy show called The Idol from HBO that everyone hated.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And she was fine in it, but it more felt like, I'm an adult now, look how sexy I can be kind of vibe. Like it was like an answer to Euphoria.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you hear about The Idol at all?
I'm the name.
People hated it. Like they dragged it.
Yeah.
Through the mud when it came out. And I think it was just because of I don't know. I really don't know why. But anyway, that's Lily Rose Depp. And so I thought she was pretty good here. She has to go through lots of emotions. She has to scream and cry and be miserable. But she also has some tenderness. And I really believed the relationship between her and her husband, Nicholas Hoult. She really seemed to love him. So yeah, man, I thought this was great. Very, very, very good. And I guess we could probably rank this director's movie since we like his movies so much. We can try and do that.
Yeah.
And then Willem Dafoe was just hilarious in this.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie had some good laughs too. Like it really breaks the tension a few times with some unintentional comedy maybe, or intentional comedy, but not like a joke.
Mm-hmm.
That worked. So yeah, I thought this was awesome, and I would definitely watch it again. What did you think of it?
Yeah, the comedy is a lot like a movie, like, well, kind of akin to Anora, where like it's a situation and there's a lot of shit going on, and I think certain people would laugh. Like, not everyone's gonna laugh at the same spot.
Yeah.
But something's gonna happen and you're gonna laugh.
Like the uncomfortable laugh.
Exactly. And I think now, so Willem Dafoe's been in every one of his movies except for The Witch, and I love Willem Dafoe, and he's great in this. And so, a little backstory: a year and a half ago, maybe I read Dracula. It's a pretty long book, and I have to say, like, I really enjoyed it. And I can't remember his name now. But Van Helsing, who is who Willem Dafoe's character is basically based on, right? He's the Van Helsing, the Abraham Van Helsing character, right? These people are all based on characters in Dracula. This is a complete ripoff of Dracula. And then they did the movie in 1922. It's a silent movie. And there were a bunch of, copyright things, and they tried to sue them and blah. There's a whole history about it, right? And it is very interesting. So, and this movie changes very little. Like, you even have the ship crossing the sea. You have the young guy going to the castle, and right down to the wolves being chased. And there's a couple little things they leave out, but I think the biggest difference is that this is Count Orlok, and he is ugly. And I think that's the biggest difference. Is we don't have, like, Dracula is maybe more of like a sexy kind of character,
like a Phantom of the Opera kind of,
right? And Dracula, like, he had the teeth and he was pale and his fingers, but Orlok is like ugly, right? He's a monster, whereas Dracula can kind of be human, right? Especially if you watch that one with Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman plays Dracula, and he can be. Anyways.
Yeah, well, okay, so I have a question then about the Dracula lore. Who is Renfield?
So Renfield, in Nosferatu, Renfield is the guy who is in jail, and he's eating the rats and the live birds, and he can feel that Dracula's coming, and he is his assistant. He will do anything for Dracula.
Okay.
And in the book, he is like a much bigger character, but I find in most of the movies they kind of relegate him to a nothing character.
Except for the movie Renfield, right?
Right, and which is kind of cool because showing that all these years later we got this Renfield is still doing this. But in the movie, it's really interesting in the book because we are. It's I can't remember when the book came out, early 1900s, and we're hearing kind of how mental health was looked at with this Renfield character at that time.
Yeah,
because and this character wants to study him, and he like feels pathos, like, and empathy for this person. Like, he's crazy, but I feel something for him, and I kind of want to help him. But so I am a fan of Dracula, and I've actually seen Werner Herzog's Nosferatu. Right. I watched that last year, which was okay. And I haven't seen the 1922 one in the full, which I've seen a lot of it, and this is great. I love this one. I think I'm like 4 stars. I think he got the mood very much right, which I think could put some people off because it is very much the mood in all of his movies aside from maybe The Northman. Very dour.
Yeah.
It's the movie almost looks black and white at
it's
parts. Like,
crazy because in my memory it's black and white, but I know it wasn't.
Yeah, it's very much like very dark, like, dark darks and dark blues and stuff, right? And Lily Rose Depp didn't wow me but I think she did a really good job in that role, showing how much she did love her husband and cared for him, and the way that she was being controlled by him. So I have to say she was effective. So and of course Bill Skarsgård is great. If anyone listening doesn't know, Bill Skarsgård also did Pennywise in It.
Right.
So that is kind of probably, he's continued to kind of get these roles because I know he did something else too. And I guess he doesn't shy away from these roles. He's kind of like Douglas Adams or Doug.
No, Doug Jones.
Doug Jones. Thank you. Douglas Adams is an author. Doug Jones, who does a lot of the, like, he did the Shape of Water monster and Hellboy.
Yeah, Hellboy. Whole bunch of them. He was the Bye-Bye Man.
Oh, what?
He's been in like 100 movies that you'd know.
Kind of like the Eric Roberts of makeup movies, but and
you know who gets a raw deal in this movie? It was cool to see her because I didn't know her really. Mm-hmm. Emma Corrin, listeners, plays the villain and bald woman in the movie Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, she was great in Deadpool and Wolverine,
right?
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that this was her because she plays a totally different character here. than the woman in Deadpool Wolverine. And that she's, a very intense and formidable villain. In this, she is like your typical 17, 8 wife worrying about the twins, kind of like very womanly role. And in that, very feminine role in this movie. And in Deadpool Wolverine, she was kind of neither, or she would like masculine or neither, I would say.
Yeah. Almost genderless.
Yeah, genderless, yeah. But she doesn't get too much to do here, but I am looking forward to seeing her in the future because to me, seeing her in these two movies or these two roles within the same year tells me, oh, she's probably got something cool
something
within her, like a great movie to come.
Yeah. And I think I can't go anywhere above 4 stars because this is a story we've seen a million times. And there are some very interesting changes, maybe. It's definitely the darkest version, I bet, because it's, he didn't hold back. Like, there's one scene in the house and that I won't get into. But I would say if you're going to watch any version, I would say watch this version. Of course, the 1922 silent movie is a classic and everybody loves it. And, if you're a film nerd, you probably want to watch that. But I think this is going to stand the test of time as one of the top 5 vampire movies, let alone Dracula or Nosferatu movies, which there are only 3. But
this isn't the same family as Renfield or the Last Voyage of the Demeter. Like, I was glad I had seen that because there was a scene where they are on the boat, and I was like, oh, I know that story now.
Exactly.
Or you go ahead.
No, I remember, and I wonder if I think you may have talked about this a little bit on the last episode. And we were gonna save it, but you did say something I remember about Aaron Taylor.
That's what I was about to bring up.
Yeah, how you didn't love him, and he was a little all over the map. At some points, I was like, I don't know what Ant's talking about, but then I'm like, okay, this is weird, and I think he was trying to play this friend character in the book, like, because I always remember there's the three men, like one of them being Willem Dafoe, and then the 3 men, and then. So I know I think there's also another friend, and he's supposed to be, and I think he's taking on this role of the American, and yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
But it wasn't great.
He just didn't work for me, and he's kind of hit and miss, when I think about his roles.
Yeah.
The Illusionist, The Kingsman, the most recent Kingsman movie.
But what's the one we love? Like, what was his best? The one where we loved him in? Like,
I love him in Nocturnal Animals.
Yes, Nocturnal Animals. That kind of made me love him because I didn't like him before that.
Bullet Train.
Right. I mean,
last year's Fall Guy. He played an eccentric.
He was fine. I mean,
I guess he's fine as Bucky in the Avengers. Or is he Bucky? Who is he in?
No.
Quicksilver.
He did Quicksilver in the one movie. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But, I think
Kraven, he was just in Kraven the Hunter.
Which I actually didn't mind him in that, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think we don't have to say too much more about this, because if you're going to see it, you're going to see it.
Right.
And it's very dark. There are some jump scares and that I wasn't expecting from Eggers.
Yep.
But there's also that creepiness that Eggers has, where it's like very atmospheric, and you feel like you're living in the 1800s England, 30s in England. I said in my notes that it looks like they could have filmed A Muppet's Christmas Carol on some of those streets in London.
Yeah.
I expected like Michael Caine to walk by as full Scrooge, but anyways, so that's all I think I really have to say.
Yeah, I can say I'm 3.5, 4 stars. I think anyone who I get asked this a lot by friends of mine, people of mine who say they don't like horror movies. And so in this case, I would say this is fine for you to watch if you are someone who doesn't really like horror. It's not really horror. You know what I mean?
Like drama dipped in horror. Like, it's obviously there's a couple jump scares. There's like one really gory scene that I would have told my mom to cover her eyes or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's about it. I think it has a really effective ending. And I don't know if that's the same ending as Dracula or whatever, but I found that ending very effective and very well done.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to mention before we move on is there is another Aaron Taylor Johnson movie that I love that I would recommend to anyone who likes war movies or fighting, kind of maybe any, men, that type of thing, dads. It came out in 2017, directed by Doug Liman, who we all know. He's done the Bourne movies, all kinds of stuff. Edge of Tomorrow. He did a movie called The Wall, and it is just Aaron Taylor Johnson and John Cena. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I love this movie.
Isn't it great?
See, that's why I was remembering. There was another one I love of Aaron Taylor Johnson, and that's a great little movie.
I forget what they call them, but they're just two guys stuck, pinned down by a sniper. It's only 89 minutes, and they've got to figure out how to get out of this situation. They're being, like, as soon as they move, they get shot at, and that's the whole movie. It's called The Wall.
It's like a chamber piece is like kind of what
chamber
they call
piece,
it?
yeah.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know, like they're just almost like the two of them are in a room, but they're not. It's, so.
Yeah, yep. Cool movie. So that's Nosferatu. What do you want to move on to next?
Well, let me talk about Queer.
Okay.
For a little bit.
Yeah, let's hear this. I want to hear about this. I have kind of shamefully been avoiding it.
Yeah.
Because it's been available for me to see for a while now. So tell me about it.
So Queer is A24's 2024 movie directed by Luca Guadagnino, who is very famous for doing Call Me By Your Name. And Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do the score, which I found was a little heavy-handed at times, but interesting. This takes place in 1950s Mexico City, where Daniel Craig plays a queer man who basically walks the street at night, going from bar to bar, shooting tequila, getting really drunk, and looking for someone to sleep with, looking for a guy to sleep with, usually a younger man, like, who he thinks is attractive and whatever. And so his name is William Lee. He's American living in Mexico City, and there are a few Americans living there. And he is there because he is a drug addict, and the drug that he is addicted to, opioids, is illegal in the States, and he would be put in prison if he had stayed in the States. So there's a lot of Jason Schwartzman. Schwartzman is in this. He plays a heavy-set gay guy who is very, flamboyant, and he's kind of the humor in this movie. And he was funny, and I didn't recognize him at first. He's unrecognizable. It also has Drew Starkey, who ends up being Daniel Craig's love interest in the movie, and Leslie Manville.
Oh, yeah. I thought on the poster there was a black body I saw.
Black body. Omar Apollo, I think, is who you're talking about.
So he's not a main character?
So he's Mexican.
Wow, no. It also says David Lowery's in this.
Yeah, I know, I saw that too, but I couldn't tell you who he is.
Okay.
So he basically is just going around, and then one day he meets this younger guy played by Drew Starkey, who some people would know from the TV show Outer Banks. And he was in Love, Simon and The Hate You Give.
Yeah, and The Devil All the Time.
So he's 30, Daniel Craig's 56. Obviously that's an age difference, and that is something we have all kind of discussed since Call Me By Your Name. Right, with the age difference between. And I think this movie kind of addresses that in a certain way because of Daniel Craig, like, being queer and constantly going after these younger men. And then I think, I can't give it away, like, where it goes, but it kind of, like, leads to a snake eating its own tail kind of imagery and stuff. But this movie is very weird. It feels like Luca, the director, didn't really know where he was going or like exactly what he was doing. Like, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I really highly doubt that there was a bustling queer community in 1950s Mexico, but they make it seem like everybody in Mexico City was gay and nobody had a problem with it, and it was like
it was San Francisco.
Right, like there was gay bars on every corner, and everybody was just looking each other up and down, and
that does sound surprising to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so and Daniel Craig always wears this white suit, and it's about unrequited love, and it kind of becomes about, at times Daniel Craig will be sitting next to this person he really likes, but he's afraid to say anything or do anything because he doesn't know if the person's gay, which a lot of people in the gay community can feel, right? It's like, okay, is this person just being friendly with me, or when it's a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, it's like, are we just being friendly, or is this person into me? And so sometimes he will have this like out of body thing, and you can see like what his hand or arm or something wants to do, like they're in a movie and you can see like his hand kind of like ghost like go around the person, but he actually doesn't do it, which I found like really interesting. Daniel Craig plays someone who is kind of very irritating, full of himself, but he's also like drugged out all the time. And so, like I said, he has this relationship with Drew Starkey, the younger man, and I felt absolutely no chemistry. It was so weird. It was awkward and weird, and maybe that was the point. And there was like a lot of this I liked and a lot of this I hated. The last act is like a drug-induced, symbolistic part where like you're supposed to, it kind of went down Joaquin Phoenix, what's that movie?
Beau is Afraid?
Beau is Afraid territory in the last act with the imagery and what's going on and stuff. So yeah,
okay.
It's a little too long. It has 3 definite acts. It's like, but the third act is very much its own thing. I'm at 3 stars because I didn't hate it, and I think I'd rather watch this again than Call Me by Your Name, because there is some very interesting things that, as a queer man myself, like I felt, I was like, okay, this is something, a way I've felt before, and anyways.
Yeah, related to it, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the runtime is really what is another thing that's kept me away from it.
Yeah. I don't recommend it to you. And
okay.
And it's graphic, and but all you ever see is, you see penis, but like kind of from a distance or whatever, but you don't see any. It's so weird because, like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but whatever. You see Daniel Craig fully going down on a guy, but they only show right from
top of their head,
and then you just see him going up and down. And I guess when you see oral with someone doing it on a woman, they are like, you kind of see them right in there, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's harder for them to fake. And the other, sorry, this is my brain.
I think you're right. It is harder
in
to
the
fake.
movie. It's harder to fake because it's like, how do you say to an actor, okay, you need to be hard, you need to have an erection? Sorry, Ant's mom, whoever's listening. But
we're
how
all
do you
adults.
say that to how do you say that to an actor, right? We need you, like, because there's this very sexually charged scene between these 2 guys, and at the moment he takes off his pants at one scene, and he's completely soft, and I'm like, well, I don't know, I don't know.
It doesn't seem like that would be the case, yeah.
Right, it kind of takes me out of the movie almost, which, I mean, I guess I don't really need to see a fully erect man. But
no, but yeah.
Anyways, so I want to,
and I want to say this too. I just want to put this on the record that I'm not opposed to seeing gay sex on screen at all. I'm very, I'm comfortable enough with my sexuality to where I can watch anything on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, actually, I'll give a good example. Did you see the movie Bros?
Yeah, that was a very funny movie.
That has Or did you see the musical
Fire Island?
Oh,
no, I never saw Dick's
is a Fag
musical. No, that's the song in it, but the movie's called Dick's. No.
Yes, Dick's the musical,
Dick's, right?
Yes.
Dick's, yeah.
So,
Yes.
Bros and Dicks the Musical both have unbelievably graphic and explicit
Yes.
homosexual sex in it. And I love those movies. They're both very, very funny and entertaining to me. So, but just with having seen All of Us Strangers, Moonlight, Call Me By Your Name, there's a lot of gay stories each year. I just felt like this wasn't any different or much different or better than any of those that I had to see this right away. So that's the only reason I put it off. If this gets nominated for anything, then I will see it. And its runtime, with it being over 2 hours.
I think the only thing we're gonna see is Daniel Craig, maybe. But again, this which I didn't mind, but again, excuse me, we have 3 straight actors playing gay characters, which you and I have talked a lot about that, and I think our culture has kind of swung the other way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, because an actor is supposed to be acting, and they are acting as a gay person. And so
also love Simon, also Pain and Glory, which we just talked about from Almodovar.
Yes.
Recent gay romance stories that, again, I'm like, okay, I think I've seen this. So, but yeah, anyway, I interrupted you saying that if they'd used other actors, this might have been more interesting.
All I want to say is I think this movie is just for gay people. I think if you are in the LGBT community, I think you'll get something out of this. Like, I felt things that I didn't love the movie. I felt like the first hour was pretty damn normal to every other, sexually driven movie, even a straight, movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's all I have to say.
What was that movie that we saw with the 2 little boys that was nominated for Best
Fuck. I love that movie.
Great movie. Another movie that's kind of in a similar vein. I know.
You go on to your next movie and
I was going to say there's no way I'll remember it, and that's not an easy one to find because there's no known actors in it.
You go.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about One of Them Days, which is in theaters now, and I think everyone should see. It has Kiki Palmer in the lead and SZA, the singer. Everyone knows the rap. I guess I would call her a rap artist, rapper. Or she's not really rap even, is she? She's like pop.
The movie is called Close.
Close. There it is.
Yeah.
So I was just saying that's another example of, and that was a great movie. Another example of recent movies with a similar subject matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it's, and I sorry, we should go back to it, but I get the argument where it's like, oh, but we've gotten straight movies for all those years. Well, you and I kind of don't go see those like romantic movies,
right? I don't catch all those,
And if we do see it, it's because the romantic story isn't necessarily the main story, right? We're more in it for this, and
like The Happiest Season. That's a gay story that we both watched, we liked, but that was a little different because it was kind of a triad, and it was
It was a Christmas movie,
and it had 3 huge stars in it, right?
Yes. And
so that's a great point. Thank you for making that point.
It's a little similar to saying to me, like, oh my god, I'm a little tired of Marvel movies right now. But then if a great one came out, you'd be like, okay, I'm seeing this, I loved it. But I mean, I don't think anyone really needs to rush out and see Queer.
Okay, cool.
And I'm glad I saw it.
Makes me feel better.
That I can say that to you because I knew you were kind of on the fence, and then you were like, oh, should I feel bad about seeing it?
Exactly.
So anyways, so One of Them Days, yes. SZA, is that how you say it, or is it just SZA?
I think it's SZA. I think I've heard her referred to that. But do you know her music?
A little bit. Only
I'm sure
from,
you do.
Featuring in songs.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. She's a very popular musical artist these days for a group that's probably younger than us, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so it's Kiki Palmer and SZA, and this is like, I've heard this referred to as the girl version of Friday. This is, they live in a rougher part of LA. They're just trying to get by. Kiki Palmer's a waitress at like a diner, and SZA is unemployed artist at the moment. They live in a crappy apartment, and they owe the rent, and SZA's stupid boyfriend, or boy she's hooking up with at the moment, said he paid it, and of course he spent it or bet it on some parlay or something.
Oh yeah, I have seen the trailer. I got you. Yes. I
Yeah, so
remember
the
they're
movie
pissed at
is
him, yeah.
them having, like, and their landlord comes and says, I'm tired of screwing around with you guys. Pay me by 11 o'clock tonight, or I'm taking all your shit out and throwing you out. So just like in Friday, they have to get the money, figure out a way to get the money, and hilarious comedy hijinks ensue. The movie is 97 minutes, and Kiki Palmer, man, she just has, quote, it. Like, she is a star. We last saw her, so we haven't seen her in much. People listening might think, who's Kiki Palmer? Who is that again? So she's very, I would say, like a light-skinned black woman. She was maybe the main character in Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope. She was
great
the brother.
in that.
Yeah, she's
Honestly,
great in that, right?
My favorite part of that movie, I think.
She is very sarcastic and can do a lot of acting with her eyes, rolling her eyes, looking side to side. And then she was in Hustlers, that J-Lo stripper movie, which was excellent.
Yes.
And then she came from a kid's career. Apparently she did a lot of work as a kid in Nickelodeon type stuff. She's played voices in a lot of Disney crap, Ice Age stuff.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. She's the Ray Romano's daughter.
Yes.
For some reason, I don't know how I know that, but I've seen them all.
She did have a kind of a decent role in 2022 in a movie called Alice, which I saw. And that was like a very what's that movie with the woman Jackie Brown? Looks like Jackie Brown.
Okay.
70s afro. So anyway, it's just a very funny, good comedy that makes a lot of jokes directed at themselves, a lot of jokes directed at being poor in America today.
Yeah,
there's a couple cameos. The best is from Cat Williams.
Oh yeah.
Maude Apatow is in this as well. She's kind of like a third or fourth character. She plays the
I like her
ditzy and clueless white character who moves in because she wants to, be an ally type thing. She moves in like...
okay, I've seen her, yeah. And she's like pretending to be almost like black or like not, but almost like it's insensitive, but she thinks it's...
Exactly. Like, let's have a sisters wine night, and Kiki
like
Palmer sits there looking... Yes. So it's cool. A comedy like this most often these days gets sent straight to streaming, but since this isn't theaters, I would recommend it to everyone. You can watch it when it comes to streaming, but it's great. It's very funny. It's directed by Lawrence Lamont, who I don't know. Apparently he directed this, and I think he had something to do with the writing as well. So yeah, check it out when it comes around. If you like comedy, And I hope this opens up doors for Kiki Palmer because, like I said, she's cool. Yeah. She's just cool.
And we didn't do box office, but that's fine. It was Martin Luther King weekend, 17th to the 20th. And we were talking about how on that weekend, it beat Wolfman.
Right.
It came in at number 2, making $14 million domestically, which is kind of, I'm shocked. Like, you're better at this. Can you explain why, or was it well marketed? Or
I guess so. In my experience, because I've worked the theater now 2 days since it's come out, and we've been selling out. I had people come that said, they'll come get a drink, and I said, "What are you here to see?" And they said, "Well, we were coming to see that Kiki Palmer, but there was only seats open in the front row, so we're going to see Den of Thieves instead." Like, it's sold so well that people have come to have to see other movies. So.
Maybe just word of mouth, but
I think it's just good word of mouth on this one. Oh, yeah, I worked it for CinemaScore. It got an A-. Wolfman got a C-, which is pretty bad.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to talk about that shortly.
Yeah, why don't I just move on to Wolfman since we're there?
Sure.
And over the 3-day...
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, no. You're right. I'm glad you paused me there. So this I would give 4 stars. It's a great comedy.
Good.
Great comedy.
Good. Okay.
Cool to see, and I'm sure it was cheap. And since it did well, I hope this makes this helps nudge the studios and says, "Hell, we could make a cheap comedy. Let's do that and put it in theaters."
Yeah.
It says Lil Rel is in this, but I didn't recognize him anywhere, so that's kind of
Lil
funny.
Ray Howard.
Yeah, Lil Rel Howery.
How do you say it? Jesus,
so yeah, 4 stars. It's good. One of them days, I would definitely see it again. I would definitely go with friends to see it. It's good. It's really, really good.
Good.
But yeah, then let me talk real quick about the Wolfman, or just Wolfman.
Okay.
This I had, and this might have to do with expectations, so maybe you'll end up liking this, Mitch. This is directed by someone who we always follow, Lee Winnell. He
Yep.
directed Upgrade, which I love.
We fell in love with him his first movie, basically. That was Upgrade.
Yep. It's
Came out of
like
nowhere.
it's a cool movie, Upgrade. And then he did Insidious Chapter 3, but he's also the writer of, or co-writer of, the original Saw movie. He
Yes.
acted in that movie, Saw, the original.
Yes.
Then he comes out with The Invisible Man, and that was fantastic. Like really, really good and scary. So, all those things set up oh shit, so he's going to do what he did for The Invisible Man, but with the Wolfman, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, this feels like a typical Blumhouse horror movie. Things like Fantasy Island, things like Imaginary, things like Night Swim, things like Tarot. Those are all recent movies. Now, this isn't as bad as any of those. Those are all way worse. He also directed Aquaman, for God's sake. I mean,
yeah, I think the studio kind of got a hold of him. But yeah.
So that, yeah, and then he has also a part to do with all the other Insidious movies.
Yeah, he did some writing here and there and directing with the Insidious movies, and
and lots of the Saw movies, most of them, it looks like.
And like, he was one of the two guys in the room in Saw, which is really interesting. Like, he is one of those two guys in the room. So, because the other one is.
Oh, why'd you have to do it?
I know, Cary Elwes. There we go. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so Wolfman. So my expectations were high, and he didn't meet them or come close. So this has and another expectation raising thing. Christopher Abbott. This stars Christopher Abbott. He is a very interesting actor who I pay attention to when I see his name. He was in Possessor. He was awesome in Possessor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It Comes at Night is an interesting, weird movie that he's good in. On the Count of Three is a Gerard Carmichael movie that he stars opposite of him in. Do you remember that one?
I remember that, but I never saw it.
Yeah. They both are going to commit suicide at the same time.
Yeah. Christopher Abbott, I've followed his career since Girls. He was in that HBO TV show with Lena Dunham that she created.
And Adam Driver's in that too.
Driver. Yeah, and he was kind of one of the girls' boyfriends. He was kind of a douchebag, but I've always kind of... he's popped up. He was just in Craven.
Sanctuary, speaking of Margaret Qualley in The Substance, she plays a dominatrix that he hires to basically come and make him clean the toilets in the house. And
okay.
He was in Vox Lux. He's in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. He was in Poor Things. He had a small role in Poor Things. So he's a guy that takes cool and weird movies. Mm-hmm. So that again raises my expectations. Then next is Julia Garner. I've talked on this podcast and to Mitch. I do not like her. I don't like the way she looks. This is a personal thing to me. I did not like her in The Assistant. I did not like her character in, what was that? The Royale Hotel, where her and her girlfriend were stuck in Australia. And
yes, I like that movie, but
and then if you remember, she did Apartment 7A, which was the stupid Rosemary's Baby remake.
It's a prequel, yeah. I've skipped it.
Or prequel, yeah. She's well known for being in Ozark, which I haven't seen, so maybe that's what I'm missing from her. But yeah, I just don't like her as an actress, so I try and put that aside, but I can't. And then there's a stupid kid in this movie. I actually no, I don't feel bad about going in on kids. They're actors. I don't have kids, so I don't have any feelings about them. This actress was in. She was the little girl in Disenchanted.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all she has. I thought I recognized her from something else, so sorry about that, but she was just in Disenchanted. Anyway, nothing wrong with her necessarily, except that she's not that great of an actress, which, if you're 12, you probably aren't. So the movie is just them. You've seen the whole movie's given away in the trailer. So if you want to see the movie, just go watch the trailer. Pretty much sums up the whole thing. The only good thing I do want to say about it is there's some cool effects when he becomes the Wolfman. They do like Wolfman vision. So we'll look at him and we'll see we're about to go into what he's seeing. And then the room changes colors, things brighten. His sounds, he can hear a spider crawling on the wall, which sounds like banging so there was some cool stuff there. But other than that,
that's interesting.
There's no deeper meaning in this. The chemistry between the two leads is non-existent. Yeah, it's just a pretty bland and forgettable horror movie. So I wouldn't recommend it. Not even necessarily. It's not like so bad it's good or fun to laugh at like Imaginary or Night Swim. It's just like, it's okay. So I will probably forget about it. And it might, who knows, it might even stick around to being on my worst next year. But yeah, it's a bummer. I wanted better.
Yeah.
This is 1.5 stars for me.
Unfortunately, forgettable is sometimes worse than being bad. I mean,
I know, right?
And like, there's some movies like we're gonna do our, our worst of list and stuff probably pretty soon from 2024. I'm sure we could do that any day. And there's some I was looking at and that I do not remember coming out if I hadn't logged it on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about two movies that you haven't seen. Wait, no, I'm not talking about The Room Next Door. Apologies. I will be talking about that next week. But I'm going to talk about The Devil's Bath.
Yeah.
It is a 2024 German horror historical drama film directed by Veronika Franz and Severin Fiala, and starring a young woman named Anya Plasch. I don't, probably got that wrong. And this takes place, it is based on a book called Suicide by Proxy in Early Modern Germany, Crime, Sin, and Salvation. So it takes place from real stories about things that happened in Germany, Austria, places like that. This is a story of a young girl named Agnes. She, at the beginning of the movie, she gets married and to this guy. They're all speaking German, or I don't know, maybe it's an early version of German that I don't understand. So she gets married to this husband, and it's all about religion and how like different it was back then and how it is still kind of the same and how it makes people feel, and because she's forced to marry this husband, forced to go to this house, she can't see her family anymore because she's married to this man and he's supposed to blah blah blah, and she's supposed to do the right, like, because this is what the Bible says. And his mother-in-law is over all the time telling her how to do things, and she just starts to get depressed. And this is right from the beginning, so I don't mind saying it. There's more about the religion because her husband is secretly gay, and all she wants is a child, but he won't have sex with her. And anyway, so there's some gross scenes like that where I feel so bad for her.
And I thought, and I guess I don't want to spoil anything, but I can't possibly spoil if I haven't seen it. So I thought there was a component to this of suicide, but she didn't want to. She doesn't want to do it in a way that is against the Bible, right?
So I mean, that's kind of where it ends up leading.
Okay.
So I mean, kind of. And I think if you hear the title of the book, right, which is that it was based on suicide by proxy in early modern Germany, the movie starts off with a woman dropping a baby off a waterfall, and you watch it fall, and it's it actually kind of shocked me because I didn't expect to see the full drop, and so this movie is very interesting at the beginning and at the end, but you got to go through a lot to get to some interesting parts.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a slog. Unfortunately, you're watching this woman go through depression, and she's very sad, and she begins to hate her life, and it's the 1700s, and it's cold and wet. It's really hard to it just doesn't keep your interest, but it's really well done. But it's 2 hours and 1 minute, and it didn't need to be. If this was an hour and a half, an hour and 22, and you moved closer to that ending, I mean, and to call it horror is, I mean, there's like, right, the horrific opening, and then there's some horror near the end, like, and that's it. Like,
interesting. Okay, because I was gonna ask, I thought when I heard about this movie that it was like really brutal and graphic, but it doesn't sound like.
In the moments where it is graphic, or like where there's a time to be graphic, it is graphic. There is one woman who has died, and they are cutting off her body parts and stuff.
Okay.
Because they have their own beliefs and stuff, you know. So I'm not recommending this. I do. Ant and I both have seen this movie high on horror movie loving people's lists. Rotten Tomatoes has it as like one of the top 5 highly rated films.
Damn.
Because it's hard to give this like a bad, because they took a subject that I feel is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And to see what she went through and then the ending and where it all goes, is you kind of look back upon the movie like, wow, that really, okay, I get it, and I did not expect it to go there. But unfortunately, I'm like 2.5 stars. I would never want to watch it again in my entire life. I just don't recommend it unless, like, I think I would have rather read the book, because that sounds more interesting to me than the movie. So
okay.
Anyway, so 2.5 stars for me. I don't think you really need to catch this one. You can see it at home, and yeah, her acting's good. I don't really have anything else to say, but unfortunately, I was hoping for something completely different. I am a part of a horror group where we assign each other movies, and this was my assignment. So I already can tell that some of my friends are not happy with me for assigning this 2-hour drama, basically, in our horror group.
You know what?
But whatever.
I really hope, for your next one, here's what I hope happens. I hope The Girl with the Needle gets nominated for Best International.
Right.
Because I really want you to see it.
Right.
And then I would want you to make this a recommendation, or maybe because it gets nominated, you can recommend it. Because like some of the things you're describing, this does.
But done
better. Yeah, done better.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a true story, which is just even crazier and heart-shattering. So yeah, I hope those events happen. And I also hope it gets nominated, because then it'll be worth having seen, just because it's a tough watch.
Okay, yeah. No, I will.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's just like it's one of those movies where you say, God, living back in the old days must have sucked.
Well, that's exactly what I was kind of saying in this movie. Like, I'm like, I even said to my friend, I'm like, God, I would hate it. Like, in one scene, she's doing something. Oh, she's collecting dead bugs. And so my friend was like, well, why is she doing that? And I'm like, well, because she can't hop on her Nintendo Switch and play it. Like, you know, like she's collecting bugs and she's got an assortment. And it's like, that's her fun.
Yeah.
So anyways, do you want to set up the 2024 film Blitz?
Yeah, and I also need to this is just a side programming note. I'm gonna also add I've seen The Brutalist, so I'm gonna add that to the list.
Okay. Yeah. Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know, me too. So I'll put that as a save for next week.
And I did mean to say earlier that apparently live is not working.
I saw that. I don't know.
For some reason. So I will make sure it is working before we go into our next episode. But unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it now. So thank you, Jonathan, for bringing that up. So we would not have known. Thank you. Okay. So Blitz.
All right, so let's talk about Blitz. Blitz, as in Blitzkrieg. This is a Netflix movie from prolific or acclaimed director Steve McQueen. He is an awesome Black filmmaker that did Hunger, Widows, speaking of Cynthia Erivo earlier, Shame with Michael Fassbender, 12 Years a Slave, that the incredible series that I still haven't seen, but I know I would love, called Small Axe. And then the movie I liked, didn't he just do? No, never mind. That wasn't him. Sorry. And then a whole bunch of other highly acclaimed things. But yeah, he's really known mostly for Small Axe, 12 Years a Slave, Shame, Widows. And it stars Saoirse Ronan, who is, one of our greatest living actors at the actresses at the time. Harris Dickinson has a smallish role. And then that's about it for people I recognized. Anyone else that you know? Elliot Heffernan is listed, but that's just because he's the lead little boy.
Stephen Graham has a small part, and I recognize him. That's about it. So.
Yeah, it was kind of and so the story is World War II is getting started in London, at least. Sorry, the bombing of London is starting, which I think is called Blitzkrieg, right?
Yeah,
that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And Saoirse Ronan gets the word that kids can, escape via train to go somewhere safe, boys' school or whatever, just to get the kids out of London proper while it's going to be heavily bombed continuously by the Germans. And this little nugget is defiant, so his dumbass jumps off the train to try and get home to mommy, which is understandable, a kid would do, but obviously that's a very just horrible idea.
I think he feels like he needs to protect her, and he wants to be there, and he thinks he's old enough to be safe and whatever.
Yeah, which I did too, I'm sure, at his age. I know I did. I thought I knew more than I did. But yeah, the real right thing to do is for him to evacuate. But yeah, that could have been the last time he saw her. Lots of people died. The bombs are dropping all the time. And then we're stuck with Saoirse Ronan, and her husband is sent to war? He's off at war, yeah. Right? He's drafted.
Yes.
And so just like during most wars, the women have to come and backfill the workplace, making munitions, clothing, blah, 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 blah. So that's what Saoirse Ronan is doing, is she's working in a seamstress factory. Is that right?
No, I thought she was working to make bullets and stuff.
Okay, yeah, ammo.
I think I watched this more recently.
You did, yeah. Something with metal.
Yeah.
Not seamstress. But the job isn't necessarily the important part. But
no.
So the movie is us seeing Saoirse Ronan being beside herself, not being able to get at least confirmation that her son made it to where he was supposed to go. And then the other POV is following the kid on his journey, leaving the train while it's in the middle of nowhere, and then trying to basically walk back or hitchhike back, getting into trouble, getting pulled in by people with bad morals who want to use him to steal instead of help him find his parents. And overall, that's kind of the story. It's like an epic journey, and we follow this kid mostly. And as far as my review for it, I guess I remember this. I remember liking this less than what I had originally rated it as. So, Steve McQueen, of course, is a great director. So I think that the editing and the cinematography stood out to me. And what I mean by that, it's hard for me to say what good editing is. You normally only notice bad editing, I think. But I think the cuts that we get in switches between the characters is done well. But I'm kind of World War II movied out, almost like we were saying with the movie Queer, in that this isn't necessarily bad. Like, there's not anything there I was like, oh, this is horrible, or I'm taken out of it. But the story that it tells wasn't all that enlightening for me. I kind of wish we had stuck more with Saoirse Ronan throughout it, because I didn't really relate too much to the little boy. The movie's kind of a little soft. And what I mean by that is, let's think of this director's previous works: Shame, 12 Years a Slave, Widows. Actually, I think they're all rated R. This is PG-13, at least in the United States.
There is one shocking scene, and that's it. But you don't see anything, but it was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yes, yeah. There are, and there's lots of implied, but for a war movie, it's kind of, I would call it soft. And nothing in here is hard to watch necessarily. Yeah, this feels more commercially appealing. Whereas again, if I think, oh, Steve McQueen, he's a guy that really pushes the envelope. This feels very workmanlike. So, my overall review is that it's just fine. It's not bad, but it isn't great. It's not like, oh my God, this is an amazing movie that really tells a story that I needed to see. Yeah. So that's kind of what I thought about it. How did you receive this?
I think I'm pretty much right there with you. I found the first hour to be almost kind of borderline uninteresting. But, we don't really get any real emotional connection to these characters. I didn't feel connected to the kid. I didn't feel connected to Saoirse. I didn't understand Saoirse Ronan's connection with Harris Dickinson.
Yeah.
They seemed to just walk by each other and awkwardly stare.
Right. They give looks like, oh, we might have something here, but then there's nothing.
Right. And I got it like where it's like, we slept together and we shouldn't have because your husband's in the war or something.
Right. But we don't know that.
We don't ever really find out. And maybe we do, but someone can let me know differently. It reminded me a lot of like War Horse, but with a kid instead of a horse. Because we see this kid kind of on his way through different parts of the war.
Yeah.
And his journey, seeing certain things that were happening during the war that were borderline interesting, but things we've also seen in other movies.
Other World War II movies we've seen, which are way better, right?
And it's called Blitz. And there's really no reason to call it Blitz. I mean, there's a lot of times where they have to go into the shelters and stuff, and those are probably the most interesting moments down in the shelters, and the way the police are like not letting them in, and
right.
And then they did, and then they opened them up, and then there's some interesting stuff there.
And that stuff's filmed well too. Like there's a flood, there's the bombs that do land, there's real fire that's used in places.
But sorry.
Yeah, so like there's like these drops, like raindrops falling of like, oh, this is cool. Oh, okay, back to this kid who's kind of flat.
Yeah, it was like the kid, like, sorry, like, but the kid part just wasn't like, there wasn't that emotion there. It felt a little bit like Steven Spielberg could have directed this.
Yes.
Or kind of anyone could have directed this.
And another thing, sorry to interrupt you, but you might also could say something about this. The kid is a mixed race kid, right? Saoirse Ronan's white, dad's black. Mm-hmm. And this director, Steve McQueen, is known for tackling race issues in a big way. But it's not really commented upon. Maybe someone says, hey, black boy, go over there, something like that.
See, that's interesting. I disagree because I wrote down, and I could be wrong,
I might have missed it.
Deals with race a lot more than anything else in the story. Like, the thing is, the movie dealt with like Blitzkrieg, her, and in the war. It dealt with a lot of things, and I just felt like race kind of was in the middle there, and I was like, wasn't expecting it maybe to be about race.
I was.
Okay, and
because
I was
of his
not.
Yeah, because
so maybe
of who he is.
It was the standard, but
and it does. There are some pieces to it, so let me roll back, I guess, what I said just a second ago a little bit, but it wasn't the main focus.
Right.
Which I guess is fine. It doesn't need to be, but with all of with it covering so many things, like you said, the issue with the police not letting the people into the underground shelter, the relationship between Harris Dickinson and her, it seems like it's trying to cover too much. Like, this needed to be a miniseries.
Yeah, or like the kid part could have almost been like we didn't see the kid very much, and we weren't sure if he was even alive or not. And
right.
Like, he comes home and stuff, but
maybe if we only focus on Saoirse Ronan and don't know what the kid's up to until the end.
Yeah.
That could have been,
I feel like the kid, like, if we had seen more horrifying things with the kid, this was war, and it kind of felt like Les Mis or something, like they might as well have been singing, because it was just like, I was gonna say, this movie reminded me of a less better version of a film I saw a movie I saw a few years ago called, just pulled it up here, sorry. Shadow in My Eye. The Shadow in My Eye. It's also called the Bombardment, and it is essentially about the same thing about Blitzkrieg and stuff. It came out in 2021. It's a Danish war drama, and it is very good. It is on Netflix right now. So it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I would say, like, I would rather watch that again than watch this. I think I'm like 2.5, 3 stars on this because it just really didn't move the needle for me in any way, shape, or form. Like, I think like Saoirse was fine, but not Academy worthy. Like, there's nothing here really shines, and unfortunately, I think it may be McQueen's worst film.
Yeah, I'm at 3 stars, and I feel the same way. It's not poorly acted, it's not poorly shot, or cinematography or effects. It's just a little bland, kind of normal, like.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a movie because of what you just said that is better than this that I liked. It was nominated a couple of years ago for Best International Feature, and it was the Ukrainian-Russian War, not the current one, but the one way back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to see if I can find the name of it. But it was, we followed this kid, and it was way better than this, and it reminded me a lot.
Well, because I think that's an interesting idea, is to follow a kid and
right.
see what they were like, how they, what it was like. And I didn't know that they sent kids off, right? So that right there was something I learned that I, would have not known, that they sent kids away to be safe. And I was like, well, yeah, like, that's smart. Why didn't I know that? Like, they should have done that everywhere. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's on Apple TV Plus. If you have it, you can watch it. But I just think there's a lot. Like you said, like, you're kind of tired of World War II movies. I'm not.
Right.
I'm tired of World War II movies that we've seen before.
Yeah, tired of.
We've seen all of this before.
Yeah, give me 1 second, okay?
Yeah. You run. So we are going to talk about a different man. What else was I going to talk about? Yeah, The Devil's Bath. I said to my friend about one of my friends who watched it, to go back to that. She said, I learned something about this movie. And I said, okay, well, I'm about to be on the podcast, so tell me what you learned. And then she basically kind of reiterated what I've already said, that religion has been a thorn in our side for about 1 billion years, and that people suffering from a mental health crisis would fear burning in hell, and they would have to seek such drastic measures just to escape the torment of living in a life that they could not live in. It's really sad to think of how far we've come in this world, and then we have this awful power that wants to rip these things away from us. So yeah, so she gave me a novel here, and it's what kept me from hating the movie and her. And but if it was just packaged better, and don't call it a horror, we gotta change things up. Like, if you see horror and drama next to each other, I just don't think you would put this in the blockbuster horror section if we still had blockbuster. But that is one thing I will talk about, because I am currently watching the Marvel series with my boys, Maxwell and Atticus. We are at Endgame. We have watched them all. Max has been loving them. Atticus kind of goes in and out. It depends on the movie, depends on the character. And, but I couldn't believe it, because Max, we watched Captain Marvel, and Max was so into it. And so it was good. And then she shows up in the next movie, and he's like, "Oh my god, that's Captain America!" And I'm just telling this because of this funny story. So on Sunday, it was the middle of the day, but it was really cold, and I said, "Do you guys want to watch Avengers Endgame? Because it's like 3 hours, and we can watch it right now together." And Max has said, "Yeah, of course." So we sit down to watch it, and we get about halfway through, and I realize that I'm trying to explain a lot of it to him, and then I'm explaining it, and then he turns to me and he says, "Dad, can we watch this a different day?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. Why? What's up?" And he said, "Well," he's like, "This is a lot to take in." And I had to laugh because it's a Marvel movie, right? It's superheroes. But, you know, for a kid, he's 9, he's going to be 10, it's very soon, but it is a lot to take in. All of a sudden they are, they're back in the first movie, right? In the first Avengers film, because they go back in time, and Thanos is kind of alive again or something, and then people are being brought back from the past, and so I kind of like said, "Yeah, okay, well, we'll turn it off here." And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of map out what happens, because like they go back to 2014 or 2012, because there's 3 of the Infinity Stones in New York, and some of them go there to try to get it from these people, and then Loki takes it. But I think the concept of time travel is difficult for children. I think the idea, like, when it's a little more basic, and I'm not trying to call Back to the Future basic, but I think when it's a little more streamlined, like, we are going back to the future, and this is what you can't. We are going to the past, and this is what you can't do, blah, blah, blah. And then, hijinks happen. But when it's a little more complex, like Endgame, and it's weird that I'm calling Endgame complex, but when it's a little bit more like that, and they're bringing people back, and I've heard many, nerds, and I'm a nerd myself, so I don't mind saying that. I've heard them say about the time travel in the Marvel movies and how it's just they wrecked it. It doesn't work for them. Personally, my thing with time travel is use it however you want. Just make your movie good. Like, I'm not going to sit there and be like semantics, right? Like, oh, well, no, if he did this in the past, this would have happened in the future. Dude, time travel is non-existent. We don't know what time travel is like. So if your movie is good, I'm not going to sit there and pick apart the time travel. Like a movie that had some time travel in it this year, Kato Lake, or last year. At first I was trying to figure it out, but I figured it out enough that I really liked that movie, and that was good enough for me. So, anyways, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Ant is not back yet, so I'll keep yapping away, because I was just going to say that I have started up the Film Vultures again, and we do top 5s over there. It's a lot of fun. If you are interested in being on an episode, like if you have a top 5, I have a list, and I will send it to you, and you can pick from the top 5. I'd love to have you on. It's a lot of fun. I love sitting and talking with these people for like about an hour or so. I've already had my friend Drake on, Drake Duchamp, and I have my other friend William Lindis. Our episode top 5 LGBT movies will be coming out this week. So you can follow the Film Vultures on wherever it's at the Film Vultures on Instagram and Facebook. So you can follow that there and listen to those episodes because this is season 2. And if I find I'm having the time, I might not even break it up. It'll be season 2 for the rest of it. I just think I do like one a month, which I think is a respectable thing because I'm also doing this. One little thing before we go back into it, I want to tell you.
Yeah.
So Meta, who is Facebook and Instagram, right?
Yes.
And Threads, I guess. Today, they automatically have started making accounts follow Trump and JD Vance. All of a sudden, and so because they noticed yesterday they were at like 9 million, and today they're at all at 15 million followers.
Wait a minute though. He was just inaugurated, so could that be people joining just to be following the president?
No, they're Facebook is making your account follow them.
Right. I mean, but is there any other evidence besides the amount of numbers of increase? Does someone?
Yes, because my account, I was all of a sudden following him and JD Vance.
Really?
Yes, and someone just messaged me to say our Hollywood Persona account was as well, and I just went and unfollowed. I mean, the only reason I would follow is for news, but I'm also trying to stay away from that. I don't want to.
No, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you check your Instagram, you might be following him, but it's his official POTUS account and then the official VP account.
God, that sucks.
I'm and obviously Zuckerberg was in the audience yesterday, so I don't know if Trump said, "Hey, just make everyone follow us," and Zuckerberg was like, "Yeah, sure." So, and I posted it in my story, and a bunch of friends have said, "Yeah, I was all of a sudden following him," and I'm like, "That's really odd." Yeah. Anyways, so do you want to talk about A Different Man, or do you want to just wrap her up?
Let me look at the list here.
Let's yeah. Okay. That's good because I talked about some things while you were gone too. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's close it up. Shoot, we're still recording. You'll cut the.
Yeah. I'm gonna edit it. Yeah. I'll edit it all up.
Okay.
So next week we will be talking about some movies like The Last Showgirl, Nickel Boys, Den of Thieves 2, The Room Next Door, and The Brutalist. A lot of those movies, not Den of Thieves 2, but a lot of those movies could be Oscar contenders and are slowly becoming limited in theaters. Now I have no way of seeing any of them except for The Last Showgirl right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when do you know if Brutalist or Nickel Boys is coming to you?
I haven't seen them at all, and I think those are my 2 most anticipated. If I saw those, I could probably almost make my top 10 at that point. But
yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about Nickel Boys because I didn't really love it, but it's for a technical reason and not necessarily the story. Yeah, and then one of my friends that I go to movies with, he it's one of his favorites of the year. So yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of people just raving.
It's a cool movie. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Coming this weekend is Flight Risk, which is Mark Wahlberg's next generic action movie, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
But then Soderbergh has a new movie, which I'm looking forward to. I heard that it's being called a horror movie, but that it's really not. Have you heard anything about it?
Well,
or did you hear that same thing?
That's kind of been Soderbergh for the last few years. He did Contagion, and it was borderline horror, but also not. He did Side Effects, which I loved Side Effects with Channing Tatum and Rooney Mara, and I think Kate Winslet. And it kind of the trailers made it seem like it's a horror, but it's not.
Yeah, I that's what I've heard.
So I think that's just kind of his vibe, and I was kind of saying that with The Devil's Bath, is like these kind of movies need to have like a different category. Like, yeah, there might be some graphic scenes, but it's not a horror, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
Also, that I need to see is Hard Truths, because apparently, what's her name in it? Marianne Jean-Baptiste, apparently,
okay.
is possibly nominated for that. Do you know her? You know her from the Book of not the Book of Clarence, but she was in. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She's like one of those really good older, say, black women serious.
I know who she is.
Yeah.
And I've seen the poster for Hard Truths. She was in Fat Man, In Fabric, The Cell, 2000. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, she was like the head doctor in The Cell.
Okay.
I remember. I thought The Cell was so cool back when it came out.
Yes. On a rewatch, I was kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's really like.
Yeah.
It thinks it's cooler than it is. I mean, there's some cool effects in it. The horse being split into a million pieces.
I'll never forget that scene in my entire life.
But yeah, some of the like stuff where they go into the mind of the killer is a little like for today's. Yeah. It's a little insensitive. Yeah. For the way we look at mental health today, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what got me.
What another thing that comes to me this weekend is September 5. Have you seen the trailer for that?
That's so funny because that's what I was trying to ask you if you've had a chance to see yet. And I did not see that when I was looking up movies coming out this weekend.
Yeah, it looks like it has some showtimes at one of my theaters. And what's the political event? It's a really cool looking thing where it's the news decides, can we air something? And of course they decide, I think, to eventually do it. Do you know what the news event is? Do you remember? It was like Watergate or
chronicles the Munich massacre of 1972.
That's right.
From the perspective of ABC sports crew and their coverage of the events. Right. Because Munich, it was at the wasn't it? It was at the Olympics when they were in Munich.
Yes.
Yes. So I've never seen. Have you seen Munich with Tom Cruise? No.
That's a Spielberg movie.
That. Yeah.
It's one of his I haven't seen, and it looks like I'm working presence for Cinema Score, so I will definitely be seeing that.
Okay, cool. Okay. No, Munich wasn't Tom Cruise. It was Eric Bana.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't remember Cruise working with Spielberg.
It was Tom Cruise. Valkyrie is what I'm thinking of. Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know what that is, if it's a true story or not. Anyways, so I think that is it for us today. We talked about a lot, and yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's it.
Rest in peace, David Lynch.
We'll see. Yeah, rest in peace, David Lynch. We'll see what you are able to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever comes to your theaters or not over the next week, and then I will definitely. So I'll go see The Room Next Door so we can talk about that one because
at least that. And
and you know, Den of Thieves 2 we don't necessarily need to do, but just because there's so many Oscar stuff. And then next week, you know, Oscar nominations come out this coming Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So
like
the Razzie noms just came out, and I saw Joker got a couple of them, which is deserved.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm glad we're able to get this episode in.
Yeah, well, maybe if I watch a couple of the David Lynch movies, I can just kind of briefly say
maybe I'll try and get one in too. I want to see either Lost Highway or...
Have you seen Elephant Man?
I haven't seen Elephant Man.
Apparently, like most people say that's their favorite. A lot of
Okay.
But,
cool.
Or, well, I guess, yeah. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Hollywood Persona podcast. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at The Hollywood Persona. Feel free to email the show at thehollywoodpersona@gmail.com and make sure to rate, share, and follow on whatever platform you're listening to our show on. It's the little things that help. Thank you.
And you little shithead, you're staying here.
All right.
Cool, man.